electronically. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Mr. Chair, give me a sec to sign in, please. I'm sorry.
You ready now, Ms. King?
Yeah, I voted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're all good.
It's a 5-0 vote, one board member not present. The ayes have it. Okay, we're now at item 4.01, review of policy ADD face covering, presented by Dr. Witherspoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Mr. Chair, before we get into policy ADD, I would like to have staff provide an update to the board. Since our last meeting on Tuesday, of course, other things have happened, but we've also been following trend data, positivity rates, and the like. And as we have done last year throughout the pandemic, and we continue to look at, I would like Dr. Broussard's shop to please provide some information, and then we have some updated information from Nurse Jones as well. But I would like to start with Dr. Broussard, please.
Good evening, Chairman Bishop, Board of Directors, Dr. Witherspoon. To give you a context of where we are now compared to a year ago, on August 11th, 2021, based on South Carolina DHEC's COVID dashboard, there were 1,010, I want to say that again, 1,010 confirmed cases of COVID in Richland County for the 2-week period that led up to August 11th, 2021. 1 year later, there were more than twice as many confirmed cases in that same 2-week period. The total was 2,526. During the same period of time last year, there were 59 probable cases. This year, in this same period, the same 2-week period time frame, there were more than 18 times as many probable cases. The number reported on South Carolina DHEC site was 1,080 as compared to 59 probable cases in the same period last year. The incidence rate per 100,000 last year was 257.1. This year, the incidence rate is 867 per 100,000. Our positivity rate is currently classified as high. Moreover, our state has the 3rd highest rate of children's cases of COVID in the country, and less than 1 in 5 individuals between the ages of 12 and 17 is vaccinated. The percentage rate is 18.4% in South Carolina. What does this mean for us? There have been some simulation studies commissioned by the CDC and the Council for State and Territorial Epidemiologists. In fact, they funded 6 COVID simulation teams to forecast COVID infections and outcomes and the impact of the intervention scenarios to support state and local decision makers. The team that included the simulation that I have looked at is from Georgia Tech, NC State University, and UNC Chapel Hill. They found some of what we already know, that the Delta variant is very contagious and that children under 12 years old are not yet eligible for vaccines and therefore remain unprotected. they have said, based on their scenarios, their simulation scenarios, that without mask or testing, up to 90% of susceptible students may become infected by the end of the semester, if only 30% have incoming protection. Incoming protection means that you are either vaccinated or you have already had COVID. Mask and testing in combination, according to their simulations, can prevent 40 to 70% of new infections or more with high-quality, well-fitting masks. The consequences they've identified that extend beyond the classroom and after the semester include additional cases in the community caused by spread of children, including the spread among the elderly, grandparents, and other family members with whom our children reside, especially when the community rates are already increasing, as we see from our data. One of the things we know is that more infected students leads to more days of school absences, which forces caregivers to take time off of work, which impacts families, their lifestyles, their economic status, and impacts the economy of our community. They also found that another factor that is worth considering as a consequence is that multi-inflammatory syndrome, or long COVID, which occurs among nearly half of students, can last up to 8 months. We know that the best place for K-12 children this fall is in the classrooms. We also know that our first priority is protect our children and our community.
Thank you, Dr. Broussard. Mr. Chair, members of the board, another brief update again from accountability and our nursing services. If they would, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We began tracking the number of cases that were positive and our quarantines in Richland 1 on September 4th of 2020. During the 2020-2021 school year, we had 2,350 students, 1,127 staff who were either quarantined, meaning close contact, or isolated, meaning positive COVID cases. We've continued publishing this dashboard every evening, approximately 5 o'clock. July 1st, the week of July 1st of 2021, we got down to having one person on this dashboard as either positive or in quarantine. That quickly took an uptrend after that first week of July. As of today, we have 8 positive cases of COVID-19 in Richland 1, and we currently, as of today, have 110 staff members and students quarantined.
Good evening, everyone. Some of the updates that we have is the first, where last year when we defined close contact, it was everybody 6 feet and greater was the outside limits, but it has changed. Close contact for adults, it is 6 feet. If they're less than 6 feet, they will be considered a close contact, rather wearing a mask or not. But for students, this is the new update, is 3 feet or less. So if they're less than 3 feet with a mask or not, the students will be considered a close contact. The other update is fully vaccinated and close contact with the mask. They can come back and return, but it is mandated that they wear, or excuse me, not mandated, but it is recommended that they wear their mask for 14 days after that exposure. And that's fully vaccinated individuals. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and that concludes the district's administration's update.
All right.
Since last meeting.
All right, any questions or discussion from the board? Commissioner Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Dr. Witherspoon, thank you for the information that you are providing for us. It is my understanding that this policy that we have is still in effect at the moment, and the decision has to be made from the board as to whether or not we are continuing or whether we're suspending, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I would ask at this time if we could recess to receive legal advice from our attorney on any legal repercussions, being that it would influence the way that we may vote tonight on this policy. So I would ask if we could take a motion, I make a motion that we recess to receive legal advice prior to us deciding on whether or not we're going to keep this policy or whether we're going to abort it.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Harris of the said motion, second by Commissioner Clyburn. Question or discussion? Commissioner King.
Mr. Bishop, I do believe that this is not covered by FOIA, and it should be a discussion that the public participates in. Receiving legal advice in executive session is perfectly all right if it's part of the exceptions of FOIA, but I do not believe that a private, secret discussion about whether our students should wear masks or even the financial or legal repercussion, everybody knows what the repercussions are. I think that this needs to be a really, really transparent and open discussion so that the public knows exactly what we're facing. I think everybody pretty much knows. But this is not an executive session FOIA privilege discussion.
Commissioner Clyburn and Commissioner Harris.
Considering that we would be receiving legal advice, we don't know what that legal advice would be. It could be some information that is, sensitive or that needs to be discussed in executive session. We don't know what the lawyer would say.
Well,
Wait a minute.
And we don't, like I said, we don't know what the lawyer would say, and whatever decisions are made, whatever is discussed, when we come back to open session, I think everyone here knows what legalities need to stay behind closed doors and what should be made public to the public. I mean, I think we can, discern that and then come back and disclose whatever information needs to be disclosed.
All right. Commissioner Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Ms. King's point, I must beg to differ. FOIA allows us to have a discussion if there could be legal ramifications that could potentially harm the district, as well as safety. So both of those items are covered by FOIA. I don't act under the persuasion of thinking I'm the FOIA police, but I do understand that there are discussions that we do need to have legal advice on when you have mandates are out here at the present time, that we need to talk to legal counsel as to whether or not our decision of voting something up or voting something down could have repercussions for this district. So, Mr. Chair, it is covered under FOIA, and I'm going to ask that we call for the vote.
that's a motion in itself.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Devine, to call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. Nay.
All right, one opposition, 6 yeas. All right, we now stand at recess for executive session.
We need to take a motion on the primary motion of Ms. Harris.
All right, there's a primary motion on the floor that we recess to executive session for legal advice before voting. This has been discussed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay, and please let the record show that my opposition
We're
is
now
based on
standing
violation of
recess.
FOIA. Don't cover me, Ms. Wilson, because I consider this a violation of FOIA.
That's your opinion.